Hello everyone, welcome to the Geo Ecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand, and in today's session we are going to learn about solar insolation, that is incoming solar radiation. So before we go ahead, do like and subscribe to our channel and don't forget to share the videos with others as well. So now let's learn about solar insolation. So the word insolation is coming from this Latin word that is insolatio or insolare, that basically means what? To expose to the sun. So it basically means that thing which is exposure of the sun. So sun is important when we talk about climatology, and sun is the great engine that drives us, right? That drives the winds on Earth's surface, ocean currents, exogenetic and all those denudation processes that we have studied in geomorphology, and ultimately sustains this entire life on biosphere that we already know. Right? So this solar insolation that is coming, that is what we are going to learn, that this incoming solar radiation, remember it is basically what? Incoming solar radiation. This is in short called insolation. So this radiant energy received from the sun, transmitted in the form of analogous to short waves. Now remember this fraction 1 by 250 to 1 by 6700 millimeters in length. Now this is how short it is, and traveling at what speed? It is about 186,000 miles per second. This is what is the solar radiation or the incoming solar radiation that we talk about, insolation, according to Trivartha. So let's elaborate in solar insolation and learn its properties and its various functions. So the Earth receives only a tiny fraction of the total amount of sun's radiations. Remember, sun is a huge body. So from that, only tiny fraction of, very small fraction of the total amount of radiations released by sun is what we receive on the Earth. So only 2 billionths, now remember this, only 2 billionths or 2 units of energy out of the 10 to the power 9 units of energy is what we receive on the Earth. Now why is it so? This is because that the Earth's surface, due to its small size and great distance from the sun. Now two important factors here are the small size of the Earth and the great distance from the sun that is there. So that is the reason why this small amount of energy is received. Now units of measurement of this energy is this Langley. Now in short it is called Ly. Now remember this Langley term here. Now on an average the Earth receives 1.94 calories per square centimeter per minute. That is about 2 Langley. So this is what Langley is basically. It is about the amount of energy per square centimeter per minute. So remember, this is what we say is the solar constant. Now let's understand the solar constant in details. So the solar constant is basically what? A radiation that is received from the sun per unit of time per unit of area. Now there are two per unit here, time as well as in a given area. So that is important. Now it's a theoretical concept that there is a constancy in the amount of the solar insolation received, and that is approximately how much? 1.366 kilowatts per square meter. So this constant is fairly constant, increasing by about 0.2% at the peak of each 11-year solar cycle. Now remember, there is a 11-year solar cycle, and that is where there is about 0.2% increase. But fairly, if you observe, it is a constant in terms of this entire insolation received per square meter per unit time. So few concepts related to this are sunspots that are also called hotspots, that is faculae, and the plages. Now remember, what is this sunspot to do with the solar constant? In sunspot situation, that is this hotspot situation, we say that it blocks out the light, okay, and reduces the emission by few tenths of a percent. That is where lesser amount of energy is received. Then bright spots, the just opposite, which are the plages, that is the compensatory activity. So what happens in that case? More brightness is there, it compensates for the darkness of the sunspots. So that is how this entire balance is there in the solar cycle, which is of 11 years that is calculated. So moreover, we also need to understand one more thing in solar constant, that about 10% increase is there every billion years, not even in million or thousands. Per 1 billion years, how much is the increase? 10%. Why? Because of this burning of this
hydrogen inside the sun that keeps on increasing. So that is why this 10% every billion years it keeps adding to the solar constant. So let's elaborate further. Now there are two basic laws which govern the nature and flow of the insolation from the sun to the earth. So let's understand these two laws. One is called Wien's displacement law. The other is called Stefan-Boltzmann law of radiation. Now Wien's displacement law, remember one sentence here. We don't have to go into the details of this displacement law of the physics. So first of all, just remember this statement that higher the temperature of a radiating body. For example, here we have a sun. Higher the temperature, what happens to the wavelength? Shorter the wavelength and vice versa. So remember this relationship between the temperature and lambda that we say is wavelength. Remember, one is higher, the other is shorter. So that is there, and if one is lower, obviously the other will be longer. So this is what the relationship is. So higher temperatures of the radiating body, so shorter wavelength is there in that emission. So that is important in Wien's displacement law. It says that wavelength of maximum radiation is inversely proportional to absolute temperature of emitting body. So it means T is inversely proportional to lambda, that is we say is wavelength. The other one is Stefan-Boltzmann law of radiation. What is this? It talks about the flow or flux of radiation that we say, and it is proportional to the fourth power of absolute temperature of the radiating body. It means flux is proportional to what? Fourth power, T to the power 4. This is the relationship. So these are two laws that help us determine this nature and flow of insolation. But apart from that, we also have Kirchhoff's law, Planck's law. These are important laws that tell us about the black body radiation, the property of a black body. Now, what is a black body? It is a hypothetical body of object that absorbs everything, every electromagnetic radiation that is coming in without reflecting any amount of incident energy and radiating energy. So basically what? The sun and the earth, they are not the perfect black bodies they are considered, but they are almost approximation for a black body. Right? So that is what to be considered here in these laws. So remember the names of the laws and what they exactly have to say as a statement of these laws. That's good enough for climatology answers. Now the next thing that we talk about is the distribution of this insolation on the earth. Now insolation is received on the earth, that we know, but how is it distributed? So on an average, the amount of insolation received at the earth's surface decreases. Now the word catch here is decreasing from equator towards pole. So remember, if this is an equator and this is your pole, so what happens? It decreases. There is a decreasing order. So remember, from equator to poles. So if you look into this table, what you see? The latitudes are here, 0 degree, that is equator, and then you have 90 degree, that is pole. And what you see in the insolation percentage? 100, 99, 95, 88, 79. So there is a decreasing order. Now this is the graph. If you see the June-July graph in the northern hemisphere and look at the insolation, the maximum what you see is June solstice. The maximum peak here is there, and we remember this peak is lying on the equatorial line, right? That is important here. So this blue mark, if you see, this is what you see is the 0 degree, right? Then green mark is the 30 degree north, right? So now if you see this, the 30 degree north and this blue particular line that you see the equatorial high, what do you see? In this curve, we have this March equinox and September equinox, we have this positions, and then further this yellow, that is 90 degree north. So what you observe that in given months there is fluctuation as well in terms of distribution of insolation, but a general pattern is this, that it decreases going from equator towards the pole. That is important. Now because of this, there are divisions of various zones on the basis of amount of insolation received in each zone. So if we zone it according to the latitudes, what are these? The low latitude or tropical zone that we already know, right? So what is this tropical zone or low latitude zone? According to the insolation received, it extends between tropics of Cancer to Capricorn. So right from 23.5 degree north to 23.5 degree south. And what happens in this zone? Remember, this is that zone where sun is experienced overhead. Sun's rays are largely vertical. That is the catch here. And what happens in this region? There is this maximum and minimum insolation 2 times in a given year. Why? Because there is a variation. The sun's movement is first northwards, then it is southwards. So sun keeps fluctuating, oscillating between these two tropics, right? That is why there is this twice minimum and twice maximum in a year. So this region receives highest amount of insolation. That is the most important thing here, right? Then we have the mid-latitude zone, which is from this tropics to the extension to the 66-degree latitude. So 23.5 to 66, and here maximum is at the time of summer solstice, that is 21st June in the northern hemisphere, and winter solstice, that is 22nd December in the southern hemisphere. That is the maximum insolation received in this mid-latitude zone. And when is the minimum? Obviously it is on the equinoxes. So vernal equinox, that is 21st March, and autumn equinox, that is 23rd September in the southern hemisphere. So this is when the minimum insolation is received in middle latitude zone. And then we have the polar zone. So polar zone is where the 66-degree to 90-degree, that is the polar areas, where only one maximum and one minimum insolation is there in a year. So sometimes insolation also becomes zero due to the absence of direct solar rays in these particular polar areas. So that is important. And if you look into this diagram and also in this, you can find out how it varies here if you see. So this is one of the diagrams in which we have all these zonations, and you see the fluctuation in the temperature using these approximate dates. So what you see is the declination here. So you can draw this diagram, pause the video, and make your answers accordingly. And now what we need to discuss is finally in the insolation, the factors that affect, the influencers for this distribution of insolation on the earth. So you see, right from pole to the equator, there is not single kind of insolation everywhere. There is this distribution. So what are the factors we need to understand? So remember these 5 factors. What are the factors? The angle of incidence of the sun rays, that is at what angle we receive it. Then solar constant, that is what we have already learned. That is duration of the length of the day. That is important, that how much is the sunshine, how much insolation is there at particular place. Then earth distance from the sun. So remember the aphelion and perihelion concept, that at particular time the sun is farthest from the earth and sun is closest to the earth. So there are different times, so different kinds of insolation would be there accordingly. And then there is something which is more important, is the transparency of atmosphere. It basically means atmospheric properties, because atmosphere is made of gases, as we know in the previous lecture, and gases, aerosols and water vapor. So what happens? They sometimes reflect back this insolation as well. They also absorb as well, and they also let it refract and deflect in various aspects. So it's the factor that leads to this particular kind of distribution, or it controls distribution. So in that way we have 5 factors. Now let's discuss one by one. So the first factor is the angle of incidence. Why this incidence angle is important? Now if you look at these 2 diagrams, one is the equatorial area, where you have this distance from the source, which is very short distance, straight lines, right? Do you see this? So it means in a smaller area, more concentration. That is important. But if you see here, it goes on slanting, right? So if there is a slanting or obliquity here, if you are going from equator to the poles, because you remember the earth is spherical, so what happens? The same amount of energy is there, but the area of distribution has become large. So furthermore illustration, if you see in this image, what you see, this is 1 meter square area, and this is 1 kilowatt per meter square, that is the energy. So energy in the given area here. Now what happens? If there is this slanting rays, what happens? The area coverage or distribution is more, but remember solar constant, the energy is the same. So if same energy is distributed in more area, it means the intensity is less, right? The effect would be less. The receiving insolation values will be lesser. So that is why this angle of incidence is important. So maximum incidence values are at equatorial zone or the tropics, where sun is overhead, right? But minimum is where? At the poles, because of this factor that the same amount of energy that is received is distributed over a larger area due to this slanting property. So that is where angle of incidence is important. Now solar constant we have already discussed in details, that 11-year solar cycle, 0.2% increase is there, and the concept of faculae and plages. So remember this constant amount of energy that is important that we receive, and that is one of the controlling factors obviously for the solar insolation. Now let's go to the other factor, and that is the duration of the length and day. So that is important. Heat received depends upon the day or night factor, and clear sky, overcast, and summer or winter factor as well. So what happens now? Let's understand. If all the other conditions are favorable and equal, then longer duration of sunshine. Now it is about the duration of sunshine. That is where day and night factor comes in, or the length of the day that we say. And shorter duration of the night. That will help or enable the ground surface to receive larger amount of insolation. Now it will all depend upon how much is the time of or the duration of the length of the day. That is important, because in that particular time only the surface would receive this insolation. So what happens on the autumn and spring equinoxes? Remember, September 23rd and March 21st respectively, what happens? The sun is overhead at equator at the noon, and the night and day all over the earth are equal. That is right, 12 hours each. So these days maximum amount of insolation is received where? At the equator, and the amount of insolation decreasing towards the pole. As we know, that amount of insolation from the equator decreases towards the pole. So that is important to remember here. Now the next factor that we know is the earth distance from the sun. So what has this earth distance from the sun to do with the insolation? Now remember, earth is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit, and it continues, and there is a fluctuation on annual basis in the positions. And what are these positions? When it is farthest, that is about 152 million kilometer from the sun, it is called aphelion. Now remember, aphelion, aphelion position. And when is there? July 4th. It means the mean distance, the average distance between the earth and sun is the farthest. That is 152 million kilometer. And perihelion is just the opposite of aphelion. It is about 147 million kilometers. So it is now nearer. That is on January 3rd each year, which is the closest distance. So what happens? During aphelion, the northern hemisphere is facing the sun and therefore receives energy about 7% less than perihelion, that is southern hemisphere. Now here is the catch, and it can be asked as a question. So remember this fluctuation in the Earth-Sun distance, and that is where the amount of solar insolation received on the Earth varies accordingly. And the last factor that we know is the atmosphere factor, the transparency of the atmosphere. Now remember, because of the content of the atmosphere, there are certain things that happen. And what are the processes? Reflection, diffusion, absorption, scattering. So do you see this diagram here? Now here is simple transmission where there is no obstruction and it is transmitting from one medium to the other. Now when we say reflection, it means the property of atmosphere also has that it can reflect back. So atmosphere has clouds, aerosols, water vapor. So their molecules can reflect this. So this is called reflection. Also the change in the direction of the insolation is possible. So that is called refraction. So this is the incidence, and then you have this refracted here. Then what is diffraction? One ray is now diffracted into several segments that you see. Diffraction is happening. Then we have absorption. So what is received is now absorbed by the atmosphere. This is also possible. And the last one that we see here is the scattering. It means the insolation is now scattered into various directions because of the molecular impact, right? These molecules of the particles in atmosphere have this tendency to scatter this coming insolation. So that is why this transparency of atmosphere and the property of atmosphere becomes important here. So if you look into this type of scattering, what we know is Rayleigh and Mie scattering. And what happens? The air molecules, that is very small microparticles, these are actually leading to type of scattering which is Rayleigh scattering, and it leads to what? The blue sky that we see, the red sunset that we see. But the aerosol and other bigger particles, when they scatter the insolation, what happens? Brownishness happens in the sky, smoggy conditions happen, white clouds are formed. That is what we see, these color variants of the sky. This is where this Mie and Rayleigh scattering is there. So transparency of atmosphere becomes one of the most important factors, as well as it leads to the change in path as well as the characteristic of the insolation that is received on the Earth's surface.
So now, when we have learnt about the various aspects of solar insolation, the factors, in the sessions to come, we are going to talk about heat budget and latitudinal heat balance. So stay tuned, stay safe, keep learning.